Are you exercising to fix something that's wrong with your body, or are you exercising to be in a better relationship with it? This is one of the questions I'm going to ask our special guest today, Dr. Hillary McBride. Hillary is a registered psychologist, the host of the award-winning CBC podcast, Other People's Problems, and author of 5 books, including the bestseller, The Wisdom of Your Body. She also has a new book out called The Holy Hurt, Understanding Spiritual Trauma and the Process of Healing. She's been recognized in the American Psychological Association for her research and clinical work and awarded the prestigious International Young Investigators Award for her research contributions so early in her career. A lot of psychology today. As you know, at Move Daily Fitness, we're all about moving daily in your fitness, wellness, and nutrition. That wellness is such a huge component to being able to sustain this for the long haul, because then we have a goal. We have something to work toward. We're not only just paying attention to our workouts and our nutrition, but honestly, we're improving our overall well-being. And for me, that is so key. So I'm really excited about this conversation today. Let's welcome Hillary to the podcast. So in Move Daily Fitness, we talk about how to move forward in your fitness, your wellness, and your nutrition. It's about that forward movement, looking at a target sometimes, aiming towards a target. But really, I created this movement based on my own desire to grow as a woman. So how do you, Hillary, in your own practice, what do you think about when you're helping your clients move daily or move forward?
And you mean quite literally move?
I
Move
don't
daily?
actually.
Okay.
I maybe mean for you, like in your expertise,
Uh-huh.
how are you
Yeah.
helping women move forward?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that for many of us women, what has been motivational for us around moving and moving daily and moving forward has been coming from an like kind of an outsourced form of standard or authority, like we're chasing something. Other times we have been motivated to move forward or move daily because of shame, because of like judgment about where we are, or because there is this sense of fear of staying where we are and accepting ourselves. And it's a really interesting question to get into, like, what are our motivational tendencies? How do we motivate ourselves? If it's not from, I'm trying to be good, I'm trying not to be bad, I'm scared of where I am, I'm judging myself for where I am. And I think that's where like meaning and pleasure really come into the conversation. So what is important for me about, for me,
Mhm.
not for culture and what society says about who I should be, but when I think about why I want to grow or change or expand or try something or be better at this, what is it that I get? Again, if it's not for those reasons of shame, fear, comparison, judgment, objectification, how is there something inside of me that wants to move daily, to move forward,
Mm.
that comes from a totally different motivational place. So
Mhm.
meaning and pleasure feel like two cornerstones for me personally and in my clinical work, so that we're not inadvertently replicating a comparison or harm system that has been imposed on us. Because what's like, let's just be honest about this. We can't,
Yeah.
in our culture, have a conversation about our bodies without also thinking about that through the lens of what we have been told to hate about our bodies, how much our culture has co-opted the wellness industry and used it to thinly veil diet culture and patriarchy and women becoming like smaller, more disempowered, less focused on connecting to the power inside of themselves. So I think we have to really get to a different kind of like meaning making system or motivational practice. And as I've mentioned again as already, I'll mention again, I think pleasure is a really interesting and untapped source for us, or like personal meaning.
Hmm. Let's talk more about that, meaning
Mhm.
and pleasure. Yeah,
Mhm.
dive deep into each of those. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So when I'm thinking about meaning, I'm thinking about values in terms of like existential values and a life well lived. So, for example, what is it that I can get that feels good for me and my expansion, my development, my fulfillment, my sense of purpose here on this planet with my very short life that I have? How is what I'm doing here or the kind of improvement that I'm working towards actually going to benefit me in terms of what I want? And again, it's so hard to extricate what I want from what I've been told to want as a
Sure.
woman. And so often in
Mhm.
therapy, we're sorting out, like, sometimes people might say, well, I want to lose weight because I want to. We're like,
Right.
oh, honey, like, where did you learn that? Like, no, that's not actually from you. That came from somewhere else first. But things like, um, okay, so for myself personally, I think about how much I love to dance
Mhm.
and to dance in like not in a choreography kind of way, although like there's something so beautiful about that in group movement, I think is awesome. But for me, I do this kind of authentic movement, ecstatic dance practice, and it like I go hard
I
when I'm
saw that on your
dancing.
Instagram.
Yeah. And we do like usually the classes that I go to are like 2 hours long and they are intense emotionally and physically. And there's times where I'm like, I've got rage, I've got ecstasy. And so I run and I run because it actually allows me to have the cardio capacity to be able to dance. So like, why am I running? Not to make my body smaller, but it like allows me to do what I love. And why is it that I love to dance so much? Like here's the meaning, right? If I think about meaning and values, there's something about creative expression that feels very important for me, that my ability to move energy through my body, to emote, to regulate, to feel like, oh, I can discharge like all of the stress of the day and I can leave it on the dance floor and I can go back and be with my kid while she's having a tantrum because I got my stuff out.
Mhm.
Like I get to be present and I want to be present. I get to express myself. I want to know what that's like. I get to try new things and stretch myself. Wow, I get to meet whole new aspects of the human experience. So, meaning in terms of our values, like what does this get us that isn't just reinforcing the cultural mandate of diet culture, of self erasure, of body policing? Like, are there other values that I can be tapping into? And I think one of those values can be pleasure. It's like I
Mhm.
have a colleague who's a running coach, and she will often design runs for people if they're not about pace, if they're not about trying to like punish your body, if they're not about I have to, how would we design a run around pleasure? And this is Carly Borden from the Public Run Club. Her work is like so powerful. And she will often talk about like, okay, what's the thing that gives you the pleasure the most? Like, oh, she'll talk to a client. Oh, it's running past this beautiful but display of flowers on the ocean front that comes up every spring. And then this coffee shop that is at the end. So like, can I design my movement to be as pleasurable as possible, such that I'm just getting to like do what I love to do and it feels good instead of extracting pleasure from our movement, from our exercise, from our self-growth? Like, what if there was something that could feel good about this for me?
Mhm. Yeah, I think so many women, you're absolutely correct, will work out to like mitigate the Easter eggs that they just ate,
Right.
or to punish themselves, or to look like a certain person on Instagram, or it's not never for them, but for so many, it's seldom for them. It's seldom
Yeah.
for themselves. How do I then, if I want to go down a different path, like what you're saying sounds enticing to a lot of us. We're like, okay,
Mhm.
yes, I would love to have that feeling of training for me for the pleasure of it. How do I then start to determine what I want? Because sometimes the noise is so
Yeah.
loud, even the internal dialogue is so loud, I can't even hear it.
Yes, exactly. Oh, and I'm so glad you're bringing this up because it feels like the what I want is so woven into, or the inability to know what I want is so woven into the embodied experience of being a woman in our sociocultural context. Like I don't even know what I want to eat. I've been trained to look for what I can eat on the menu that is going to fit the story, or I'm going to perform my sexual desires in a way that seems like I can be wanted. I'm
Mm.
going to perform being in a body to be wanted, but what do I want? How do I connect in with that place inside of me that has desire, that is expressing some sort of like I don't know, thirst for the sensory and sensual and existential experiences of being. It is like, man, that has been removed from so many of us from
For
a very
sure.
young age that like yes, the question is just so potent. How do we even find that? I think there's the intellectual side of wanting and coming up with maybe a sense of identity and clarity and organizing and the familiarity of like, oh, I just know what I want and it feels really easy and I can pick it and articulate it. But the actual mechanics of encountering what I want is often more like a bodily process than it is an
Okay.
intellectual one. And whenever we get into the body, we have to remember like the body holds so much stuff. It holds the wanting, but it also holds the shame about the
Mm.
wanting. It holds the
Mm.
fear of the wanting. It holds the like constriction around the wanting. And so it takes time to really sort through what is it that I want and what, wow, I'm also noticing I'm so afraid of that. I can't let myself want that. And so when we start to get into the level of the body, we have to remember it's not as simple for many of us as like, oh, I just paid attention to my body and I knew. It is like I paid attention to my body and I felt what I wanted and how complicated it is.
Sure.
But there's a couple things that, like, I mean, this is these ideas, we can see them backed up by affective neuroscience and developmental neurobiology. There is a whole branch of nerve endings on the front side of our body that are meant to fire when we are being pulled towards something.
Okay.
There's also a whole branch of nerve endings on the back side of our body that are firing when we're pulled away from something. So, just to familiarize ourselves with how we already know that this is true, if you've ever been at a party and someone has like really bad breath and or like I don't want you just did it.
Yeah.
Pull your head back, right? So all of those nerve endings on the backside of our body activate to be like, not this. I don't want
Right.
this. Whereas, what do we do if someone is like, oh, I got to show you something really cool. Come here. Yes, we lean in. So, why is it that we lean in? Because all of those nerve endings are creating what's called the approach tendency. They're pulling us towards something. And at the very base level, we can notice those impulses as sensation even before they create movement. There might be a contraction in the abdomen, there might be a sense of like, activation in the neck. We might notice that our eyes get wide, quite literally, I want to take this in. Whereas the contrast is, if we're like, I don't know about this, we usually pull our neck back, we pull our shoulders back. You might even feel your feet turn away from someone you don't want to be in a conversation with, even if you've been trained to people please, like you're nodding along, like, yeah, 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 but your feet are like, I'm trying to get
Sure.
out of this interaction. So what we can start to do is try like little experiments. Okay, if I take off the table, I'll use an example I use with some of my eating disorder clients or folks who have been in the kind of like orthorexia world around pure clean eating and overtraining. That'll say like, what if you didn't have to think about actually eating that thing? And if you didn't have to think about how scary it was to actually want that thing, let's just come up with a couple options from reading this menu that feel like there's some sort of instinctual draw towards. And separating out like you're actually going to do the thing and the feelings about doing the thing from the wanting itself. And we do this all the time, whether it's with a menu or at a shop. We're like, oh, we feel when you're walking around a shop looking at clothes, like, oh, you linger for a moment. You put your hand out, you touch the fabric, you notice the color speaks to you. So wanting, if we start with the very base level sensory experience, just creating a menu of options and then like, oh, paying attention. what do I literally get pulled towards? And how do I feel that in my body? And in the same way that we have been trained out of wanting
Mm-hmm.
for so, so long, like it took many years for many of us to get to the point of this much disconnection, it will take a while to get back to the places of connection. But also noticing, like, oh, it feels good. And there's a difference between it feels good because I got away from a threat. Like, oh, I really enjoyed that food that I ate. And did I actually enjoy it? No, I just feel relieved I didn't eat something else that would have made me feel worse. Is different than it feels good. Like, oh, that really hits that place inside where I'm satiated and satisfied, and I got to like have the thing that I wanted.
Mm-hmm. As you're speaking, I was thinking about, and I wanted to get into this later, but now it's relevant here.
Yeah.
I know that you work with psilocybin and therapeutic journeys with psilocybin. I have done my own in a therapy setting, which I found very interesting. One of the parts for those of you who have never heard of this or done this, basically there's curated music in your ears, and you're exploring parts of yourself. So uh, the music got very sensual. Which I'm like, oh, great, here we go. And it got very sensual, and I started to feel, yes, very sensual in my experience. And it's a part that has been shut down, right? It's that pull back that you've just said for me for a long time. And I decided to just allow that to come and feel whatever it is that I needed to feel about that. Um, but yeah, it when I think about what I want, and in this session where you're very like you could hold back, but it's very hard to hold back. Everything feels very authentic with the medicine. So I felt that was certainly rising up in me. And yeah, I thought it was interesting because it's a part that's inside that I hold back because I'm afraid of what others will think or what even myself will think. And yet it's there wanting to be explored, what I really truly want, right? But it was only able to sort of show its face a little bit in a session like that. So
Mm-hmm.
but it made me like my body was responding, which was interesting because the music is beating very
Yeah.
sensually, and my mind's eye, all I saw was red. I was like, and heartbeat and thumping, and like I'm like, okay, this is intense and arousing and unbelievable all at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
it was very crazy. That's part of
Mm-hmm.
what you want, though, right?
Well, what I like in, so we bring in the conversation about psychedelics, like psilocybin is not the only medicine people can
Sure.
use, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's not right for people, but there's a bunch of other options out there, and some of them are safe, some of them are unsafe, depending on how you use it. So that's just like the
All the
psychologist
caveats.
me wants to
Yeah.
say the caveats as well. Is that it's one of the things that we understand now about psychedelics that I think people had a experiential knowledge about, and now we have the neuroscientific knowledge about, is psychedelics are particularly useful for disorganizing our operating mode, like our typical way of
Mm,
orienting to the world, which includes for many of us our really tight defenses against what's really inside. And it can be really hard to get to some of those places just by using our ordinary states of consciousness when there are so many levels of protection and
sure.
defense that have been wired in to keep us safe from judgment, like you said, from self-judgment, from others' judgment, from maybe even like quite literal violence against our bodies
Mhm.
or abuse that happened in some way, trauma. So it can be powerful to have some of that scrambled. We call that the default mode network. It's like, what is our brain doing? Kind of like its general operating system. Like, whoa, we scramble that up a little bit with a psychedelic in the right context. And all of these things that live inside of us can come to the surface. And sometimes what comes to the surface is like really painful memories that we have not felt brave enough to touch and we've locked away, like feelings, right? Like I can actually feel how scared I was. I can actually feel how angry I am. I can actually feel the grief. And
Mhm.
also, what? lives inside of most of us is this powerful life energy that we've had to contain or restrict or package up and have it show up in a certain way to be desirable, to be safe, to be good, to be loved. And there's like something in there that is just ready to come through. And it's like very, very powerful to get in touch with it. And like you said, I think like what I was so drawn to in what you said is typically around sensuality, there's the like retract, the pull back. But in that session, it was just happening and you allowed it.
Mm,
And it's almost like, for many of us, when we're thinking about wanting, we might be so associated to the like, this is bad. Oh, no, pull back, retract. Don't let myself connect with this. But there's a thing that happens before that, which is worth staying with. It's like, oh, there was an inkling of a sensation or an inkling of a knowing. There was something we're pulling back from. And if we can, in ordinary states of consciousness, stay a little longer with that. And just like, okay, I'm not going to go totally bananas and go out of control and like go on some sort of like sex shopping, eating rampage just because I felt a little bit of arousal or I felt a little bit of like curiosity, like, oh, I can let myself touch that a little bit longer and see that
mm,
the wanting itself is just a series of sensations. There's nothing bad about it. It's like awake, it's a pull, it's alive. And then we get to use our mind to say, do I want to act on that thing? Do I want to go for that thing or not? Like the truth is about wanting, the point is not that once you connect in with your wanting, that you just do whatever you want then. It's that you get to know yourself like, oh, there's something about this that is
mm,
important for me. And do we act on everything we want? No.
mm,
But just being connected to it puts us in
mm,
touch with something very important inside of us that helps us know ourselves and live more fully.
mm-hmm.
It's such a beautiful
Yes.
experience you had. Sounds
Yeah,
like it.
it was not nothing, I'll tell you that. Um, I've shared a few of the stories here, but what's interesting is, as I'm thinking about some of the things that block those parts of us from coming to the surface, or even that allow us to stay present with them for long, can be things that, of course, are shameful around the body. And I wanted to highlight this because I know this is part of your work as well, some shame rooted in spiritual or cultural messaging. And my audience doesn't know this. This is funny that I'm going to announce this here, but I have a very large audience, right? Like on Instagram, about 450,000, across all social media platforms, probably a million, but I've never told them this. And I just feel like maybe it's time to tell them this right now.
Mm.
But my husband was a pastor for about 15 years. And I, my audience doesn't know that I am or was religious or that we did, participated in any of that. For many reasons, I suppose. My heart's beating so fast right now. That's funny. I'm nervous to tell
Mm-hmm.
this because
Yeah,
just well, maybe because of shame around so many things.
right.
But yeah, so going into this experience that I just already told the audience about here, there was a lot of the shame from spirituality, from the church, from how we
Mm-hmm.
grew up. What we were told was okay, how to be a good
Mm-hmm.
girl, what not to do. And so I think a lot of our audience could probably identify with this message for themselves too, and how you think about your body and how much it could be influenced by your culture, by your spirituality. And for me, that was monumental. And
Mm-hmm.
clearly, I've kept it contained quite close to myself for many years, for some good reasons too. One of them is I don't want to have arguments about religion in the comments ever.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. Talk to us about what
Mm-hmm.
what is shame and spiritual and cultural messaging. How does that interplay, and how can we move with that or move
Mm-hmm.
through that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. And I was feeling just like right there with you as your heart was beating, as you like have held this so close to your
Yeah.
chest, and to say it as a big, whew, feels like like naming a big thing. And
Yeah.
I know how when religious identity and history can become a social label, where people interpret what it means or
Yeah.
interpret what it means to you, it it's almost like in our day and age, religion has become less about like the deep inner workings of our heart and the processes, and more like how is it read socially and what do people assume about us and what does that mean? And so I'm just appreciating you taking the risk to share that with me and with the audience. And I'm glad you bring this into the conversation because it is one of the places where I think people learn that it is very, very good to believe that your body is bad.
Mm, yeah.
It's in certain religious contexts, there is something about transcending the body that is seen as morally superior. If we can get out of the body, if we can control the body, then we're not beholden to the pitfalls of lust or wanting or desire, even in some contexts like death. Like we can beat death if we're a part of this religious belief system. We can conquer the body, but it means we have to disavow everything that is
Right.
happening, every kind of want, every kind of urge, every kind of feeling. And ultimately, the tool that is used for that, there's two common ones: shame and control. When shame and control are handed down to us from toxic religious cultural systems, then and we're steeped in that from a young age, when we're deep in the culture, it becomes very hard to separate out like what was the voice we were told and what is our voice.
Yeah.
And
What do I want? Yes.
yeah, exactly. And in psychotherapy, we call that an introject. Like we might say to ourselves, like, oh gosh, my body's bad. I need to control it. Maybe not that way. Maybe it's like, oh, I gotta exercise today because I had, like you said, too many Easter eggs. Or I gotta like, don't want that. Don't wear that. Like, whoa, don't, right? And we don't even realize that those thoughts or like those suppression mechanisms were first outside of us before we ever learned to internalize them,
Mhm.
and that they
Mhm.
came from somewhere. So it's just a really sad thing that that's a very common experience that many people have, especially in high demand, high control religious environments where you're told you have to be this way in order to be safe. You have to be this way in order to belong. And what you have to be is far from yourself, far from your wanting, far from your body, far from your desire, far from your sensuality, far from thinking for yourself, even. And this, like, just for, because you kind of alluded to the tension that we can experience. I'm speaking here as someone who also has a religious identity and deep spiritual tradition and practice. And I think it's possible for us to pull apart the systems which are toxic and are harmful for us from like religion as a whole and spirituality as a whole. This is not me
Yes.
saying religion is bad, spirituality is bad, like a no way, but looking at like, wow, what is the system
Sure.
oriented around? What is it doing to us? What's the impact of it on
Mhm.
us? And there are some systems that have functioned very well for a very long time on making people believe that they're bad because then they can sell a solution to the badness. And other spiritual religious systems are actually like powerful sources of self connection and meaning and community and deep expansion. So let's just like, we'll separate those things out. I trust that your listeners can hold some of that, like that nuance and complexity there. But it is like, it's a real thing to say that one of the injuries that many of us acquire from traumatic spiritual environments is a deeply held and internalized belief that we're bad. And then what's extra kind of tricky about it is also the belief that it's good to believe that we're bad,
Right. Yeah.
right? That layering gets so messy in there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have worked through a lot of that. This medicine journey definitely helped explore those parts. But you also see this, not just with that spiritual trauma, but with aging as well, right? You have to be this way. You have to look unwrinkled. You have to have no gray hair. You have to have great eyelashes and skin. I mean,
Mhm.
this is flooding our feeds right now with shapes of women's bodies, but also with what they're doing to their faces. And I mean, all of that. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts that you have on aging and how do we move to acceptance and love of our aging selves?
Oh, I love this question so much. It's so personally important to me and has been a big focus of my doctoral research and my
Oh,
clinical
cool.
work. And I
Yeah.
just like, I think this is this is the conversation I want to be having right now. So thank you for inviting me into it.
Hmm.
Um, I think that there's a couple things going on culturally for us that are important to name because when we think about this, what often feels like a very personal struggle, like my face, my wrinkles, my bones, my fat, my body, we forget that the focus and the judgment and the comparison and the body project turn my body into something good because it's bad. We forget that as I've alluded to a few times here today, like comes from somewhere because so many of us have been indoctrinated into a belief system that actually makes us believe our specific body is a problem instead of like zooming out and going, wait a second, where if all of us feel this way, but it's culture specific, like if there are people in the world who don't feel this way and have the same aging bodies, maybe there's a story that we have bought into that has us
Yeah.
thinking that we specifically need to self-police our bad bodies instead of going, wait a second, our culture's really messed up. And
Mm.
I think there's two primary things that are happening. I mean, I think there's more than that, but the two things that really
Yeah.
stand out to me in the research around aging and women is one, we have associated the desirable female, the desirable woman's body as youthful, as fertile, as like, even in some ways, we've infantilized the desire of women in our culture to have women look as young as possible and
Mm.
maintain that as much as
Yeah.
possible in this way that I think like if we really deconstruct does not reflect the truth of what women's changing bodies look like. It's like we want to preserve desirability to a certain life stage and age, which doesn't reflect the natural course of things. And it's like there's a patriarchal thing that's playing out there where when women are fixated on orienting towards a more youthful appearance, when they believe their bodies are bad, they disconnect from the power of being the crone, of being the aging woman, of being the powerful postmenopausal,
Yeah.
I give zero shits
Yeah.
about how you feel about me. Because when we've been brainwashed into believing that our bodies are bad and we have to fixate on that, then we become disempowered socially. It's
Totally.
again, and there's like a backwards thing, which is funny because our society also rewards youth and like youthfulness. So it's in a way we get this kind of pseudo power as women, but not actually this embodied, like a full person. I know the truth of who I am and I can speak the truth about what's happening, and I'm not bought into a system that is bent on my disappearance. And that actually is a thing that happens as you age. And when we disconnect from our aging, and we try to preserve our youthfulness, we actually shortcut our access to our own power. So I think
Mm.
it's strategic in a patriarchal system to keep women fixated on aging.
Sure. Makes
The
sense.
second thing, yeah, right. And we're like, there's got to be more for us than like, I just like would love as I'm aging to be doing other things with my energy and like
Hmm.
really changing systems which hurt us instead of being preoccupied with changing what my appearance looks like. No, it's going to
Totally.
change.
Yeah.
Like, let's let it change and let's
Yeah.
enjoy the ride of that.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I think there's like a very pervasive death anxiety, death avoidance component to our culture where we are removed from death contemplation practices, where we're removed from the normalization of dying and death and aging. And we see people who are really elderly like removed from our society, removed from our home. I think there's so many ways that we are death and aging avoidant.
Mm.
And our fixation on appearance and appearing youthful really has to do with how scary dying is for us.
Mm.
That there's something about death anxiety, which maybe isn't at the forefront of our mind if you're getting a filler or you're getting a treatment or you're getting a facelift. But ultimately, what we are saying is like, I want to prevent my body from moving towards this end that is happening, that is the natural course of things, that is the way that everything moves in nature. And I'm going to try to, we call this terror management theory. It's been talked about for decades that whether we try to manage our distress about dying and aging by pretending it's not going to happen. And in fact, if we could build into our culture more practices around death acceptance, around death contemplation, around bringing like death and dying into the forefront, I think it would allow us to have more peace
Mm.
about the fact that we're moving there.
Hmm. Have you
Mhm.
studied any or seen any cultures and communities who are doing that well?
Oh my gosh, so many. I mean, think like Mexican culture feels like an incredible example of this, where you look at like Day of the Dead and people bringing death into their homes and the aging into their homes. There's such a respect for elderly people as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
Oh gosh, like so many other cultures, like Tibetan culture does a really, really good job of this. Even it's like any culture where they have not over relied on medicine and wealth to keep death at bay because that hasn't been an option, tends to have spiritual and cultural practices which bring in grief, death, and dying because there's no way around it. And it seems that in our like highly industrialized, the industrial medical complex, in our culture where there is a ton of focus on anti-aging, we just like, we kind of don't really see people get old, even in the media, right? We don't see, it's now becoming something that's a little bit more popular for actresses to say, like, I'm not wearing makeup or I'm
Yeah.
not getting treatments to my face. This is what my face looks like. But for a long time, like who gets roles? Who is on the front of magazines? Who are
Yeah,
we
you're punished.
idolizing?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, women are
Or
hung out
excluded.
to
Yeah.
dry, exactly,
Yeah.
punished. And what's even worse is like we learn to police each other as women. It's
Oh,
when we think
totally.
about patriarchy, it's not just some man standing over our shoulder saying, you better work on your gray hair. It's like us learning to do it to ourselves and each other, which
Oh,
is why it's so
totally.
insidious.
Yeah. When you see that in comments, I mean, I'm like, yeah, that is just terrible. It's so terrible when women slam other women, like it just, yeah.
Yeah.
This desire for youthfulness there's such a pull. Like I just, be
Yeah.
in not the limelight, but being on social and being on video all the time, there's a pull for me to show up as, curated self. And for many, many years, again, this was part of my medicine journey that I explored because my desire to get the 10 out of 10 on the scorecard from all the people around me was greater than being the authentic version of myself. That was scarier. So if I could
Yeah.
curate your response to me, I was safer because then
Yeah.
I could make sure that you wouldn't leave, right? So the movement and the growth in understanding that my authentic self is who I really want to be the loudest voice. I mean, that takes
Mm.
work. That took years for me to explore that, and I think a lot of us aren't doing that work, and so
Yeah.
we feel pulled to get the 10 out of 10 scorecard from our audience or from the people around us that you look good. Oh, you lost weight. You look better. Oh, look how great she looks. And it's all about looks. And I just hate it. And the pull is so strong sometimes for me to fight against that. I feel sometimes mostly I feel like solid in the camp I'm in, but I will tinker. I will put a foot in the other camp and
Mm.
just, maybe I'll try Botox or maybe I'll get my hair colored or, and it's just, oh, how do we
Mm.
grow in our strength in this
Mhm.
side so that we can
Yes,
influence
yes.
the rest of the world?
Yeah. I love what you said about like the other side of this, which is I'm going to get the scorecard from you. I'm
Yeah.
going to get someone to hold up the 10 out of 10. That's not something we hold up to ourselves. That's
Yeah.
something that we ask other people hold up for us. And we curate ourselves and pretzel and adopt and objectify. And we do all the things that allow us to get that response. Like what you're highlighting is that our relationship to appearance is actually a deeply interpersonal and social phenomena,
Mm.
that how we are relating to how we look has so much to do with how safe do I feel? How
Mm.
loved am I? How close am I? Do I have the experience of having deep, deep, deep knowing that I am loved and safe just as I am. And the paradox here is if we don't, we're more likely to get pulled into these artificial ways of trying to construct safety and belonging. But paradoxically, when we're not actually showing the truth of who we are, we can't ever take it in and believe that it's true about us because it's not who we really are. If we're showing our inauthentic selves and getting pseudo belonging, it's never going to feel like real belonging because it's actually not a response to who we really are.
Yeah.
So the paradox is like we generally we have to have communities and relationships which are built on belonging through authenticity. And what that means is we have to have people who themselves are secure enough to say, hey, I'm okay with your flaws. I'm okay with conflict. I'm okay with you thinking for yourself. I'm okay with me being me and you being you. And I think that there are many of us who don't have those experiences
Yeah.
from the get-go, like attachment wise, like we were never actually shown unconditional love and belonging. Do it like, yeah, that's you. Make the mistake, do the thing. I got you. And we don't have it now. We don't have communities of people who are like, I saw you at your worst and I am in. Like, I
Yeah.
want this version
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah.
But we also can't get that if we're not risking to show people the messy. And
Yeah.
so it's like there's a social thing that I want to bring forward that just to name explicitly what you were saying, like appearance for many of us has been a pathway to safety, but it's not actual safety
Mm.
if we're not showing the truth of who we are.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's not actual safety because it's painted on. It's attached to the hair. It's
Yeah, right, right, yeah.
implanted. It's right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah, or
really
it could change. We
interesting.
could lose it at any moment. Like that's conditional belonging. That's conditional safety. That's conditional
Mhm.
love. That's not the stuff that makes the world go round that we're after. What we're after as a human species is a deep sense of knowing that we belong, that we're a part of, and that we have meaning and that we're loved. And we're not going to find that when we're leading with the curated version that is all about who we're supposed to be. It just
Mhm.
doesn't touch those places in us to get the affection when it's not actually about the truth of who we are.
How do we develop a better intuitive capacity?
Mhm. Well, I think that there are lots of ways to do that. Places to practice and play with intuition is important,
Mhm.
but kind of like what I was saying about desire and wanting, there is a lot in our body that that we can go for. Intuition is not necessarily just an intellectual process. It's really like, can I pay attention to the information my body is giving me that is helping me make decisions and create a gut sense about something? And there's a practice that I love because it's evidence-based. Like the researcher in me is like, okay, good. You know, the scholar and scientist is like,
Yeah.
good. Okay, so intuition is not just this like kind of nebulous construct. It's actually something we can train. And the research has shown that people who are better able to sense their heart rate without
Okay.
taking their pulse have
Mm.
more interoceptive skill. Interoception is the sensing of our internal world. And if we can sense our internal world and we can pay attention to the data that we're getting, it
Mhm.
seems that people are more protected against the image saturated culture and the messages about image because we've kind of like moved what's important from the outside to the inside, but interestingly have higher intuitive capacity that when we are better attuned to the sensory information inside of our bodies, that we're more in touch with the like, no, 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 don't make that choice. Don't trust that person. Yes, go for that thing. You want that thing. But it takes like we have to be able to feel inside of our bodies. And our culture has trained us as women to be
Mhm.
preoccupied with the outside of our bodies.
Mhm. Embodied listening, even. So when I was in this therapy group, one of the things that we practiced was embodied listening. So you would, and Dr. McBride has done this already with me today. I don't know if you heard that, but you would hear someone else tell a story, and maybe it was a traumatic story or whatever they were experiencing, and then you would embody back to them how it landed within your body. Like, where did I feel that? And she said that to me. I could totally feel it when you were sharing this thing, and so I think that's the intuitive aspect that we are looking to develop. Is that right?
Yeah, intuition is inside of all of us, but we can train our sensitivity to it by paying attention and redistributing where our attention goes instead of how do I look? How am I being perceived? What are they thinking? What is my appearance supposed to be like? To what's happening inside of me? Can I
Mm.
feel that that gnawing sensation and spend time with it and interpret it and discern? Like, I think it means it's not the right thing, but I also like, oh, I'm so choked about that. Or it feels like I have to do this thing and it's so important and I'm scared. Like, there's a lot of information inside. And even if we are very connected to it, it doesn't always mean that we accurately perceive it right away or that it's clear to us, but putting our attention inside is like such a game changer
Mhm.
for
Have you
this.
ever read Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes'
I
book, Women Who
have.
Run with Wolves? So,
Yes. Yes.
Women Who Run with the Wolves. In it, for those who haven't heard of the book, I have it on my recommended reading list. So, if you want to look at that, she talks about intuition as being this little doll in this little
Mm.
girl's pocket. And it's, I think, a story of Little Red Riding Hood, basically. And she goes into a forest and she sees a pie there, and the doll's jumping up and down in her pocket. Like, as her intuition saying, beware, beware, there's a wolf around the corner about to attack you. But she just looks at the doll and just kind of ignores the doll. And then, of course, the wolf, gets her. But yeah, I always remember that there's always the little girl, the little doll jumping inside of me, wanting me to listen to parts of her. So that was interesting.
Well
Yeah.
said.
Anything else that you're excited
Mm.
about coming up in your world these days? What's yeah, tell us
Mm.
about anything that you're really excited about, something that lights you up as in your work.
Yeah. Well, I'm always cooking up all sorts of mischief and projects and things like that. But I've got a couple of things that I'm really looking forward to sharing with the world. I've got a book coming out February 9th, 2027 called Embracing Mortality, which is really about befriending the fact that we're going to die, befriending our bodies and how bodies will inevitably die and decay. And how do we use that as a means of returning meaning and passion and purpose to our lives so that we can make really good use of it.
Love that.
So that's coming up, and I'm always like writing and publishing academic things. People can find me on social media at Hillary McBride, and I'm usually like we'll put things out there, but stay tuned for that book because that's going to be a really important one for us, I think.
And it looks like also you go on retreats, you host retreats, or you're invited to
Mhm.
speak. So that's some things that are ongoing. Is there a
Yeah.
website that people can connect with you,
Yeah,
or just yeah?
HillaryLMcBride.com. And if you head over to the speaking and events tab, you'll see like, or I'm training clinicians or have group programs or retreats or things like that, or like one-off events. Sometimes there are things in person and online, but we'd love to see you all there.
Amazing. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for being my guest. This was very great, exactly where I wanted to take it today. And again, for those listening, improving your wellness, knowing thyself is some of the best work that you can do. So thank you, Hillary.
Thanks for the great conversation, Tracy.
Now, to all of you, as always, go move daily in your fitness, your wellness, your nutrition, and we'll see you all in the next Move Daily Talks.